When Ethan found out his mother was dying, she had only 30 days left. But the real heartbreak? She had been fighting cancer alone for 2 years, while her own family ignored her calls. Sad piano music, rain sounds, slow cinematic visuals of hospital hallway. Ethan was no stranger to exhaustion. He spent his days and nights working grueling double shifts at a dusty warehouse, pushing his body to the limit just to keep their heads above water. Life had been a battle ever since his father, David, walked out on them years ago for another woman. In an instant, Ethan's childhood ended, and he stepped up to become the man of the house. Every single morning, his mother, Linda, would stand in the kitchen with a gentle smile, carefully packing his lunch bag. But lately, Ethan noticed cracks in her mask. She was fading. He saw her hands trembling as she poured his coffee, the liquid splashing over the rim. He caught glimpses of her secretly pressing a napkin to her mouth, only to hide the bloodstains a second later. Whenever he asked, "Mom, are you okay?" she would just offer that same soft, heartbreaking smile.
"I'm fine, sweetheart. Don't worry about me.
I'm just a little tired." But the truth couldn't stay hidden forever. One night, Ethan returned home earlier than usual. As he reached under the couch to retrieve a fallen pen, his fingers brushed against a stack of papers. His heart sank as he pulled them out, medical bills. Thousands upon thousands of dollars in debt. And then he saw the word that stopped time. Stage for cancer. The music stopped suddenly. The silence is deafening. Ethan's hands began to shake uncontrollably. He looked up to see his mother standing in the doorway, her face pale. "Mom, what is this?" Linda froze. The secret she had carried like a heavy stone was finally out. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she didn't offer an excuse. Instead, she whispered a heartbreaking apology. "I'm so sorry, Ethan. I just didn't want to become a burden to you." The truth that broke him. The dam finally broke, and Linda confessed the agonizing reality. The diagnosis had come 2 years ago. While Ethan was working himself to the bone, she was fighting a war in silence. She had driven herself to chemotherapy, sat in those cold hospital chairs alone, and cried herself to sleep in the dark. Also, Ethan wouldn't have to give up his dreams for her. Ethan collapsed, the weight of her sacrifice crushing him. 2 years, Mom? Why didn't you tell me? Linda reached out with a weak, trembling hand. Because you already sacrificed your entire childhood for this family. I couldn't let you lose your future, too. Those words destroyed what was left of his composure. The following morning, Ethan sat in a sterile office across from Dr. Miller. The doctor's expression was grim. "We can start an aggressive treatment immediately," the doctor explained, "but we are fighting against the clock. Time is running out fast." When Ethan asked the one question that mattered, the cost, the answer felt like a physical blow to the chest. $180,000. Ethan looked at his bank balance. He had exactly $2,000. The gap between what he had and what he needed was a mountain he couldn't see the top of. But as he walked out of that hospital, the despair turned into a cold, hard resolve. He looked up at the Texas sky and made a silent, unbreakable vow. "I will save my mother. I don't care what it takes. I will not lose her." Ethan pushed his body past every human limit. His life became a blur of endless labor. Every morning began at the warehouse, hauling heavy crates until his muscles screamed. As the sun set, he swapped his boots for a steering wheel, working as a night delivery driver until the early hours of the dawn. On the weekends, he took on grueling construction work under the scorching sun. He survived on just 3 hours of restless sleep, his face growing gaunt and his eyes bloodshot. His body was breaking, but his spirit was fueled by a single goal. He couldn't stop. He wouldn't stop. Meanwhile, his younger sister, Sophia, remained a ghost. She was living a world away in Los Angeles, obsessed with her social media image and a shallow, glamorous lifestyle. When Ethan finally called her, his voice cracking as he begged for help, her response was a cold blade to the heart. I have my own life, Ethan. I can't ruin my future and my brand over this. That sentence didn't just hurt Ethan. It shattered what was left of Linda's spirit. Weeks of nonstop toil finally took their toll. While lifting a heavy load at work, the world went black. Ethan collapsed from sheer physical exhaustion. But even as the paramedics loaded him into the ambulance, he wasn't worried about his own life. Clutching the nurse's hand, he whispered through parched lips, "The money, did I make enough for my mom's treatment yet?" Looking at his calloused hands and exhausted face, the nurse couldn't hold back her tears. The viral miracle. Moved by his selflessness, that same nurse secretly filmed a short video and shared Ethan's story online. The footage was simple but devastating. It showed Ethan, still in his work uniform, collapsed in deep sleep on the hard hospital floor right next to his mother's bed after a 20-hour shift. Within 48 hours, the video exploded. Millions of people across the globe watched the story of the son who was literally working himself to death to save his mother. Donations began to pour in from every corner of the country. The comment sections were a sea of support. This young man is the definition of a hero. Real love still exists. Let's help them. Protect this family at all costs. Even major celebrities began sharing the link. In less than a week, the fund surpassed $300,000. For the first time in months, the weight lifted off Ethan's shoulders. He burst into Linda's hospital room, tears of pure joy streaming down his face, holding his phone out to show her the numbers.
Mom, look, we did it.
We can finally afford the best treatment in the world. You're going to be okay. But the room was eerily quiet. Linda wasn't smiling. She lay there, looking incredibly peaceful. Too peaceful. Suddenly, the silence was shattered by the high-pitched, frantic beeping of the heart monitor. The flatline. Doctors and nurses rushed into the room, pushing Ethan aside. The world began to spin as Ethan screamed at the top of his lungs, his voice echoing down the hallway. "Emma? No, not now. Please don't leave me." How is the pacing for this part? Would you like a specific ending for the next scene, or should we keep the tension high? Linda survived, but barely. A few days later, she called Ethan closer. With trembling hands, she whispered, "I'm proud of you." Ethan held her hand tightly, crying like a child. "Please don't go." Linda smiled weakly one last time. "You gave me more love in one lifetime than most people ever receive." Then her hand slowly slipped away. Flatline sound. Ethan's world went silent. Months later, Ethan used the remaining donation money to open a free cancer support center in his mother's name. Outside the building, one sentence was written on the wall. No one should fight cancer alone.